What's going on YouTube? Florida Man Knives here with another quick comparison video. This is going to be between the Spyderco Salt 2 lightweight and the Spyderco Delica 4. Now in this case I do have the lightweight version with these exclusive teal scales, but I just want to compare the two overall and what the main differences are. Just a quick short video, but jumping right into it, you can see just by looking at it, this has the black DLC coated hardware, which is going to aid in that rust prevention, and that moves along down the spine and the lock back as well as to the clip. Now that's going to bring me to the next difference. Obviously I do have a MXG deep carry clip here, which is titanium. I highly recommend MXG clips. I mean, they're fantastic. Use their clips for several of my knives, several brands, but this clip right here on the Salt looks like a typical Spyderco hourglass clip, right? But it's actually titanium, which I would imagine definitely aids in the weight savings of this knife. And I'll get to that later, but it is definitely noticeable. Now, one thing with the Salt, of course, there are no steel liners in here to aid in that weight reduction, of course. Now on my Delica lightweight, because it is the lightweight model, there are also no liners in here, but it is heavier, which is very interesting. Now, looking at, can't necessarily see, you can kind of see how the FRN is milled out. Looks like they skeletonized the FRN on this one a little bit more. And it is also a little bit thicker, the Salt is, which definitely helps when you're holding the knife. And then another difference is going to be the FRN backspacer here. Now, you know, with the Delicas, the fit and finish is not necessarily perfect if that's really what you're concerned about. And it is this smooth FRN as opposed to on here. It's a little bit recessed with that extra texturing in the form of these grooves, which I actually quite like. I mean, I don't know how necessary it'll be, but you know, I'm a fan of texturing, jimping, whatever you want to call it, on a knife. So wherever it's located, I'm really not going to complain about it. Just helps lock your grip in a little bit more. Now moving on, I already addressed the thicknesses of the handles. The thicknesses of the blades are also different. The Salt is marginally thicker at 11 thousandths behind the, or sorry, at the blade thickness, not behind the edge. And this is going to be definitely thinner, 0.09 inches as opposed to the 0.11. In addition to the thickness, you'll notice, although the handles are actually the exact same length, the blades are different. Specifically, let's see if I can line this up for the camera here. The cutting edge is a little bit shorter on the Delica. And I think that's going to be attributed to a couple of different factors. The first one being the shape of this blade. With it having almost like a sheep's foot tip as opposed to the true drop point of the Delica, that definitely extends out a little bit more. And then to accommodate for that, they actually made the hole a little bit bigger on the Salt as opposed to the Delica. And now, you know, maybe that was specifically designed so it's easier to open in wet climates if you have gloves, I don't know. It could be just to accommodate for this blade type. Grind on this is perfect. Razor sharp out of the box, as all my Spydercos are. They do a great factory edge. Never had any complaints there. You can see right here the Salglaser design mark. Both are, of course, Seiki City, Japan knives. This one is in VG10, like all the standard Delicas. And this one is in the LC200N steel. That, of course, is the biggest difference between the two knives. No matter what Delica you get, I mean, yes, there are, you know, special editions, versions, whatever you want to say, with different steels, but the LC200N, I mean, virtually rust-proof. you know, not 100% necessarily like H1, but from what I've seen in my personal experience with it, it is. And it's a great EDC tool, or EDC steel, excuse me. The edge retention on this is going to be fantastic. Much better than VG10. It's also pretty easy to sharpen, relatively speaking. I mean, if you're going to compare it to like an S90V, S110V, but it is not too difficult to sharpen, especially considering the quality of this steel. I mean, good edge retention. Durability is pretty good too. The toughness, not quite as high as the H1 steel, but the H1 steel definitely gets dull way, way quicker. But I definitely recommend both of these knives. I'm a huge fan of the Delica, of course. Perhaps Spyderco's most well-known knife. I'd like to think so. The first Spyderco I was actually introduced to was a Delica. The old model with the clip-it pocket clip right here that was molded in. And then the Salt too. I mean, you know, some people might not be a fan of this color. That's for visibility. If you do drop it in the water, you should be able to see it a lot easier than you would if it was black or blue, of course. But color aside, I mean, just the weight of this thing, the blade steel, it's absolutely fantastic. And you can see, comparing the two weights of the knife, you're gonna have the Spyderco Salt 2 coming in at 1.87 ounces. You're gonna have the Delica lightweight, at least this particular one, coming in at 2.26 ounces. Now this is the lightweight model, so the standard Delica is a little bit heavier. But again, just 1.87 ounces, that is ridiculous. Blade HQ has it listed for at 1.9, comes in a little bit below that on my scale. I mean, for a Delica to be even more lightweight, have a rust-proof steel that's higher quality and edge retention, and I mean, what more can you ask for? Sure, maybe you don't like the color of the scales, and I get that, but I highly recommend this knife, even if you don't need it for a saltwater application like I do. I mean, it's just fantastic. You know, in the pocket, it's going to be a little bit more obtrusive. It will stick out more because the blade is a little bit taller, and with that design of the sheep's foot tip almost. But highly recommend, everyone. If you like the Delica, you're going to love the Salt 2 lightweight. So thanks for watching, and check out my other videos.